In developing technology, there's an information explosion, and therefore, as one understands the operations of a machine, by analysis of its parts, by separating them, and see everything going on in terms of bits of information. But it is this extraordinary capacity of the more efficient computers solving instantly certain complex problems without knowing how it does it. Light comes at you from all sides, all over, everywhere at once. You are the most complex thing that has yet been encountered in the cosmos.
welcome the host of Guild Night, Undercroft CEO Adam Wooden Sheffield.
Good evening, Guild members. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. Looking at the watch, it's Thursday. It's 18:01 p.m. Only a few more hours will be on Friday and through another great week. So, as usual, want to kick things off with Guild announcements. We'll follow that with Tradecraft announcements and some updates from the Development Center here. So, first and foremost, for those of you that have been following along on social media, Baseline is going strong. We're over the hump for Networking 101. We've got some really talented students in the program that, once again, you'll be meeting here through the Guild in the next few days and weeks. So we look forward to wrapping up networking this week and jumping into operating systems next week, specifically Windows and Linux, where I know some of our senior Guild members will be teaching these folks some really cool stuff that they can do within those operating systems. Mentioned last week, already quite a few Guild members have come out and engaged with the students, specifically our good friend Crispy and Ryan, who was out here today, have had a chance to meet with students, talk a little bit about their experience in the field, and really help motivate these folks to continue through the program and get into this community and get into this industry. Some programming updates for you. We did our first pilot of a virtual Hacker Movie Monday this past Monday, 0 days. Thanks for everybody that joined. It was great. I was able to use it as an excuse to get away from the wife and kids because it was work related. And I look forward to the next one. We will be holding them monthly on the last Monday of every month. So check the programming calendar. Next one we have in queue is Lo and Behold, which is a great documentary on the history of the internet. And then following that, in what would it be, September at this point, will be another great documentary associated with hacking elections, which I think will be very relevant going into November of this year. Some other talks in the pipe. I know a lot of you are looking for some more technical talks. We've been working behind the scenes here to get some lined up, including next week, I believe. We've got another classified series coming up. How to be a ghost. I'm not going to go further than that, but you'll see it posted here shortly. I'm really looking forward to folks joining us. I believe it's next Tuesday. The other two big talks we have in the queue are the next iteration of our Hustle Like a Hacker series. We're working on the founder of a very well-known security company out of the Northwest that will be giving a talk on how he started his company and grew it to what it is today. And then also on the technical side, two other talks we have coming up, one coming out of CISA that we're working on final approval on. For this month, well, I should say August, on critical infrastructure security, specifically focused on the electrical grid. Other one we have coming up is from one of the founders of Soltra. Once again, keep an eye on the programming calendar to see those announcements as they come out, but I promise you we got some more great content coming up in August. As I said last time, stay tuned for more information on our virtual offices. I'm hoping to have that rolled out here in August. And the CFP, Call for Presentations, is live again on the website. If you got a talk, whether it's something you want to test out before a conference you're looking at presenting to, you just want to get some more experience, plug yourself for your organization, build your brand. We record all these talks for your own personal use. So if you have a great idea, go hit up the CFP, get yourself in the queue. All right, next is Tradecraft announcements. Mentioned before, for those folks that, especially at our apprentice level, that are interested in Baseline, we'll be releasing the schedule for the fall offering here in the coming weeks. Remember, active Guild members in good standing, current on dues, receive that program at half the cost. I think I talked about before all the cool takeaways you get coming out of the course, whether it's swag, your own, the Raspberry Pi kit we're offering, the flash drives with all the labs, what have you. It's been really a great program, and I've enjoyed being out here watching it unfold over the last couple weeks. Development Center announcements. Internships, practicums, if you need them for the fall as a Guild member, reach out to me. We'd be happy to work with your professors, your organizations to make sure we can get you an opportunity to fulfill that requirement. COVID-19 update, we still have the mandatory mask order, have it with you. We have them on site. We have hand sanitizer on site. Don't come in sick, don't be stupid. I say that all the time. We can put every preventative measure in place, but if people come in sick, we can't do anything about it. So, be smart, folks. Can you scroll down for me there? All right. I think that's about all the announcements I have right now. So, without further ado, as I say, I'm really looking forward to introducing tonight's speaker. Met Wilson, what was it now, Wilson, about about a year ago, I think we first started talking. Wilson and I have been talking on and off for a while. He's doing some great things with veterans in the local community that are looking to transition to cybersecurity. He is a retired military officer and also the founder of June Cyber, which is another local cybersecurity startup. And I believe you guys are headquartered out in St. Pete, correct, Wilson?
That's right.
Outstanding. So another one of those talks that I don't think could be any more timely. The talk tonight is focused, a little deviation from the normal for us here on Guild Night, but it's associated with mental health. So we all know, whether it's personally, professionally, the stress that has added up over the last few months. I was talking with Wilson earlier before the talk, as we were making a pot of coffee here, that, we all experience a certain amount of professional stress as part of the workplace. Chris, myself, anybody here at the Undercroft can attest to the stress we have day to day when it comes to continuing to build this community of practice. But the COVID-19 pandemic, what's going on with civil unrest, what have you, only adds to that. And a lot of that is also starting to trickle over into our personal lives as well. So I'm really excited to hear Wilson's perspective on this, specifically as it applies to us in the cybersecurity industry. Not only what's going on, how we can recognize what's going on, but also countermeasures and mechanisms we can use to overcome a lot of the challenges we have professionally and personally, not only in this industry, but in our own lives. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead and hand things over to Wilson. Wilson, your show, sir.
Introducing Wilson Bautista for his talk. Firewall against your demons.
Hey everybody, glad to be here at the Undercroft. Thank you all for having me here. This is a great opportunity. Before we get started, just wanted to again say thanks for the folks that invited me here. And then I've got some friends and family that are here to learn a little bit something about me personally. So without further ado, this talk is called A Firewall Against Your Demons. Achieving a hacker's mindset in an uncertain world. And like we were saying before, it's a weird time right now, right? With COVID-19, the civil unrest, a lot of people are not having jobs, and it's a difficult time to search. It's a difficult time for everything right now. So the purpose of why I'm doing this and why we're talking about this right now is to highlight and educate our community on the importance of mental health as it pertains to cybersecurity, as well as to the individual and the organization. Now, a little bit about me. I am a retired military officer. I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps as enlisted. I went and commissioned as a IT communications officer. I did that and found myself getting outside of active duty after 13 years and went on to be a defense contractor supporting all of the Marine Corps bases in the Southeast, getting ready for their command cyber readiness inspections. So doing audit work, and then I went to a multinational, and I was the global head of their vulnerability management services portfolio. Came down to St. Petersburg to work at a startup, another defense contractor, built out their IT architecture and their information security program. And then I said I was tired of this, so I went and started my own business called June Cyber, and it's a cybersecurity consulting service, but we also have a training arm, and we'll talk about that. And we have an initiative to help vets. But I've written a book called Practical Cyber Intelligence, and it's a weird way of looking at cyber as a framework, cyber as an architecture, and how we could gather intelligence from different sources. And I also have a podcast called DevSecLead. So I'm really trying to make a difference in the community and trying to challenge the status quo, and I think that's why we're all here. So mental health, the bottom line up front, we have to realize that this isn't an easy fix, right? There's not something that we could say I'm sad today or I'm depressed today, and then I'm not depressed today. There's not an on and off switch, on and off button. And sometimes it takes a little time to recognize what this really means. And it's a taboo subject. We're programmed to think that, we're programmed to think of what success looks like. We're naturally competitive. We want recognition. We want a better mate. We want a job. We want more money. But our expectations are for perfection, which we can't do. Maybe people want straight A's, or you want to make sure you have straight A's to make mom and dad happy. You need the perfect body. We've heard these phrases, failure is not an option, second place is first, loser. But we're kind of all on different paths of our lives, so it's a complex topic, mental health. So what I kind of wanted to do here is talk to you a little bit about my path, so we could have a better understanding and have a baseline of what we're talking about. Now, when I went to Florida Atlantic University for my first semester, I flunked real bad, and I said to myself, this is a waste of time. I'm not doing what I need to do. I need a little bit more discipline. And as I was going for a second job, I found myself talking to a Marine Corps recruiter, and he talked me into it. And it led to the career of being enlisted, being an officer. And you have these phrases, these very strong and powerful statements saying pain is weakness leaving the body, and only the strong survive. And that's how I lived, right? I had look at me in uniform right now. I look pretty pretentious. I was with an infantry regiment. We were getting ready to go off to war. So this is how you needed to be all the time, perfection. And I had to be the father for my family. So there's a lot of things. You look happy outside, but the reality is when I was serving in active duty, I was away from my family. I think that before I got out, we had been married for 12 years, and we did the math, and I'd been with my wife for about 4 of those years, right? So that's stress, right? Stress inoculation. This is when I was at the basic school. Basically, after boot camp, you go to this other school where they teach you combat, basic infantryman, officer type of stuff, where they take your stress and they bring it up a little bit, and then they tailor it off again, and then they bring it up again, and then they tailor, and they keep on going up. So the intent, or what they say the intent is that you should be able to deal with a lot of stress, because obviously when you're in war, you go through a little bit of chaos. I had a lot of poor leadership too, and I had toxic coworkers, and it's really turned into a toxic work environment, which eventually, I guess, overextenuated my depression and increased my anxiety. So when I was getting out of active service, it was a time where the war was drawing down, and they were only accepting an X percentage of lieutenants to stay in. So you're in at 13 years. I've made a transition. I'm thinking I'm going to get 20. Yeah. So the Marine Corps said, hey, thanks for your service. We don't need you anymore. So that was 6 months before my end of active service, and I had to find a new life. And by this time, I was already in Afghanistan. I'd been back for a few months. I was in a terrible unit. They were, just a toxic work environment, and I deployed with those folks. And the experience was so bad that, it impacted me. Not only that, the Corps didn't keep me. I needed to find a new job. It was a new life, and there were a lot of challenges with that, and it really kind of sucked. But, as I was walking around and being in that unit that was so terrible, and I just remember like people seeing that there was obviously something physically wrong. They would say, hey, yeah, whatever your problems were, just get over it, right? Snap out of it, right? Like, it's so easy. You can't be walking around with your head pointed down. I love this one. Be positive. Yeah, man up. Yeah, it's just like, well, you know, these are phrases that I guess are supposed to like negatively posit, you know, kick you in the butt. But we'll get in a little bit more of what I think is like there's a time and a place, and that was not it about this time. So you could imagine that I came back from war. I came back to the U.S. And wanted to stay 20 years in the Marine Corps, and then finding myself having to get out. I'm thinking that I'm a failure, that I can't stay in. I have to find a job. I'm losing sleep. I'm depressed. I'm anxious, right? After an evaluation, as I was getting off of active duty, they diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And I'll just read this word for word. A psychiatric disorder that can occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, such as natural disaster, serious accident, terrorist act, war, combat, rape, or other violent personal assault. But as we go through, this is kind of my point of view of how I've had to deal with PTSD, and that it's a simply stated problem/issue with a complex solution that takes time, effort, patience, and motivation to unravel a multitude of mental strings that have been intertwined through experience, both controlled and uncontrolled, decisions, and environments that we've previously handled that we are maneuvering in the present. Right? That is the best way I could say how this experience has been for me. And, you know, out of all of this that's going on, where you've seen me from enlisted, being an officer, and then being a global head of vulnerability management services and multinational to my own consulting firm, you could just imagine that all of these things, this is my career. My career is going up, but I feel like garbage the entire time, right? So this is what it is. You may think that somebody is completely fine and normal because they're successful and they're doing great things, but you know, deep inside they could be just, you know, hurting because of something that happened long ago that they can't let go, or you know, they just don't have the support that they need. All right, so as I said all that, how does this even relate to cybersecurity? Because when we talk about a hacker's mindset, we have to think about performance, right? We have to think, how are we going to secure this, or how are we going to break this? You need to have your A game on all the time. So we want our performance to be excellent. And we all have demons. Some people don't believe in themselves, or they don't think that they are as competent as they really are. We know this as imposter syndrome. All of us have bouts with our self-confidence at one point or another. Maybe you don't want to enter that CTF, you know, because, you know, Joe Hacker is around. Maybe you have, maybe you just, you know, have issues of taking the first step in writing that book. Depression, anxiety. Everybody at some point in some way has had to deal with this, but it's a fallacy to think that we should be kind of hiding who we are. And when it comes to cybersecurity, how many of you probably agree that, you know, if you're an incorrectly configured SIEM is going to give you some alert fatigue, right? You have incident response that could be stressful. You could have lots of breaches. For those of us who have been in management, understanding that there's no funding, or they're not going to give you more people, and you have to protect the entire organization, can be also very stressful. Compliance, yeah, compliance, stressful. We're constantly getting new technology. There's always a revision. There's always something with policies, documentation, technology, machine learning, AI. And then, as we all know, the adversary has new TTPs coming out all the time. So this is how kind of, when you start adding it all together, the stress can be unbearable if you don't know how to fix it. So when I say that, a lot of people say stress is, you know that you have your personal stress and you have your professional stress, your job. But like as we're going through like these crazy times right now with COVID, it's like professional, personal, COVID, right? Professional, personal, COVID, Portland. And then the last one, professional, personal, COVID, Portland, Florida. Florida's just a stressful place, especially if you're down south. So what we're trying to do is look at stress as an enabler or a disabler of performance. So on one extreme, and one that gets talked about all the time, is burnout, right? High amount of stress and low amount of performance. And then the opposite end of the spectrum is boredom, right? You have nothing to do and you are not doing anything about it. So you're just there, you're just bored. Now, I want you to think about how stress impacts you positively or negatively. I want you to think about how it impacts your team positively or negatively. And then a lot of people don't talk about this as well, is that you have your adversary to think about. How does stress impact them positively or negatively? And these are kind of things to think about. Now, the next part here is called maintaining a hacker's mindset in an uncertain world, which we'll talk about some of the things that I've done to, at least to ease myself, is that, like the first one I had to be aware of the fact that I possibly could have a mental health issue. So from an individual level, something that helped me and something that I try to explain to folks as well is that you need to do a security assessment, especially with your stress levels and what stresses you out. And those things that stress you out are your triggers. Obviously, people say, oh yeah, you've been triggered. Well, that's all fun and games until actually you're the person that is being triggered. That could be pretty hard. And what we're trying to do is understand what our triggers are so that we can either avoid them completely or learn how to deal with them. Now, a lot of you may be in a leadership capacity, and how does awareness help you as a leader? Well, if you understand your team members and you understand their habits and who they are, you're able to take care of them better. If you're looking at your work environment, being aware of whether or not people are gossiping behind your back or gossiping about other people, or just backstabbing all over the place. Well, that definitely has an impact. And how do you mitigate that? Right? And then as far as being a leader is also understanding morale. Is your team happy, or are they just happy to get a paycheck? Right? Are they going for the mission? Are they reaching their objectives with their projects, or are they just existing?
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it. My mind's a little scattered. Did you want to wait till after to do Q&A, or did you want just to?
Does somebody have a question?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the question.
So yeah, the first one is from Coaches. Our identity as Marines is a proud identity. When we get out, we cling to that Marine warfighter identity because it's often all we have to our name after our friends and beloved Corps move on without us. How did you get over that?
I don't think that I would say that it was something to get over, because we do identify very strongly with being a Marine, and I would say that it was maybe the question would be more geared to how do you prepare yourself for not having your brother and sister next to you, or somebody to to lean on. And how did I get over that? Well, well, that's part of the reason why, I'm having this talk today. It's because I wish I did. Right? And it was just like clawing your way through the civ div and trying to make sense of what these weird people are and what these weird people are talking about, and how you've been in a culture that is straight and to the point, and now you're in a culture that dances around all the issue. So that was hard. I think that getting out and realizing that I was really a civilian, maybe it took me about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's difficult to shake things.
Right.
Like things that have been ingrained in you your entire life, like getting a haircut every week. That was a thing, right? That's what you do. That's what you did. And then when you get out, it's not a thing anymore, right?
Once
So
a month, maybe. Yeah.
so it's just like, okay, I could wait 2-3 weeks,
Right.
and then you're trying to grow your hair, and I still haven't been able to get a normal haircut. Like just grow my hair out. My wife won't let me. So yeah, it took me 5 years.
Wow.
It took me 5 years.
So we've got another one from Binary Badger. Advice for building discipline for those with high anxiety and depression, but didn't take the military route.
Well, I would say if you want to build discipline, you have to first start out with an easy routine. If that is making sure that you wake up at 8 o'clock every day, you start small, and then you make sure that, by 9 o'clock you're out of the house, and then you do that. So it's like everything else, like when you're building your skills, you have to crawl before you walk, and walk before you run. So if you're looking to build discipline, then you need to start small. I would say with the alarm clock, or even with the amount of water you're supposed to drink every day.
I struggle with that.
Yeah, right. That's
8 bottles, like what,
Yeah, and you start small, and then you start challenging yourself and saying, okay, or you set a milestone for yourself. It says, I'm going to wake up at 8 o'clock 5 times, and you do that. It's like, okay, I'm going to wake up 10 times, right? And this is like, okay, I could get up at 8 o'clock, and and then you're disciplined. Your body's getting disciplined that way, and then you add another thing. Then you add another thing. It's just like anything else, like what we do in security, is you have to build the skill. So.
Yeah, and we've got more coming in, but we'll hold those.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
That's great.
Yeah. No. So awareness was one of those things that I had to learn. I had to learn that, there are stressors, and there are things that trigger me, and I'm gonna have to learn how to do that. And I'm not saying that I did this all on my own. I had a lot of help, and I'll get into that as well. And now that you're aware that you have these stressors, the one thing that I struggled with was to acknowledge the fact that those stresses are impacting me. So I hate to be cliche and talk about security things, but you actually have to do a risk assessment on how these stressors impact you, right? You have to do a treatment, right? That's another thing. And Adam and I were talking outside, and we had talked about just the personal and the professional, and the COVID, the Portland, the politics. All of those things cause stress. And one thing that helped me is acknowledging that there is noise, right? Do I need to be on Facebook 20 hours a day? Right? Do I need to have the radio on every day? Reducing the noise reduces the stress, right? And just understanding what that is. Now, from a leadership perspective, acknowledge that you have a cumulative amount of people's stress all around you, and you have to do a risk assessment and how that's going to impact your team, and also treat that too. And what we have to do as leaders is that we either have to reduce stressors, right? People are too stressed out. Maybe we extend their lunch break, or we do something else, or we can increase stressors. So this is something that people don't talk about. It's just like, well, if you see that people are bored, then you need to increase their performance by getting them busy. All right. So you don't want boredom, and you want activity. Establishing a firewall. And I hate to sound like it's all like kumbaya. But I mean, if after you do a lot of reading and then you kind of experience this, you realize is that there's a lot of truth in it, and a lot of us also have a hard time like accepting the fact that there is like this emotional side. It's because we're like supposed to be men and we're supposed to, be hard all the time and we have to know everything. But you could allow yourself to be vulnerable, right? And you have to and vulnerability means that I can't control everything. I have to accept that we can't control everything. And then again, like with this kumbaya circle, everybody's, hugging each other and, drinking beer or drinking wine or taking shots or whatever it is. You got to surround yourself with people that are positive, people that are, and I'm not saying like the people that are like, oh yeah, I'm happy to be your friend, no. Like people that really understand you, people that you would talk to if you were down, and that you would, that you would lift them up if they were in trouble too. As far as leadership and establishing a firewall for leadership-wise, it's like you've got to be that shield, right, for your team. And this is the concept that I call the poop shield, but I'm not going to say the explicitive, but it's the poop shield, right? You got to make sure that like a toxic boss or a toxic supervisor, a toxic employee, any kind of environmental factors that may impact the performance of your team, you have to shield them from those things. Another thing that we have to do that can also reduce stress for folks is mentorship, right? Mentorship is huge. Like, I don't know about you, but technically, I have a hard time with a lot of things, right? Whether it's writing a script or programming, I can't imagine if I didn't have a mentor to show me these things and say, hey, dumb butt, this is how it goes. You did this, right? So take the time as a leader to mentor your folks. Take the time to support them, right, in what they're doing. Take the time to, maybe if they're having a rough day, is to say, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Can I help you with anything? That's really important stuff. And then as with everything else, we need to continuously learn how to be better leaders. Because at some point you're going to be sitting in that seat with a young person that's looking for you for guidance, and they're going to want to know that you have their back. And then building resilience and recovery. Now these are things that have really helped me, especially when I get anxious, is that I have a worry journal, right? I have a worry journal and I just write and write and write. And if I feel that like at night when my thoughts are racing, that I can't sleep, I'll write down my thoughts, and I'll feel a lot better about it. Another way people reduce the amount of stress is exercise, right? That's one. And other people don't even think about work altogether, and they just go and have some hobbies. If you're bored, that's the other end of the stress, and that spectrum is that you have to challenge yourself to something new. Maybe it's learning that language that you didn't understand, or maybe it's learning another tool or another company's tool so you understand that better. Another one is, if you're bored, why don't you try to mentor folks, right? And then, or be one of those folks that gets menteed so somebody holds you accountable, right? Those are things that we need to think about and help each other as cybersecurity professionals to reduce or increase the amount of stress that we need in order to be at optimal performance. So the thing is, as well, is that all of these tips and tricks, they might not work. So the hardest part is to even just ask for help, right? And that's why we go with awareness, acknowledgement, understand that we have that, but we could do all of those things, but sometimes it's just you get to the point where you have to just break down and say, yeah, this is not right. I need some help. call a friend, call a mental health professional, and get the help that you need. We need to break that taboo. We need to break that myth, and it impacts us so much. So I hope that these tips and tricks helped you out. I hope that my story helped you out a little bit.
Yep.
And I think that we as a community, we could be better, right? Like anything else. But as we're in these roles and as we are growing up professionally, we're able to take notice of our own stress that we have, and then other people's stress, be empathetic to their stresses, so that we can improve our mental health across our organizations and across the field.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got some questions still coming in. So this one is from Turtle. Well, he says, first of all, thank you so much for doing this talk. He says very timely. In relation to triggers, what are your recommendations for ways to de-escalate after encountering a trigger? Sometimes you can't remove yourself from the situation or the agitator. Is there something that you've found that really works well for you?
Man, that's a tough one.
It is,
because everybody has a different trigger, and then based on the situation that you're in, is how you can deal with it. When I let's see, let's do an easy one that maybe everybody understands. When I first got back from war, one of the things that I had a problem with is large crowds and loud noises. Right? Why? Well, when you have a crowd around you, you can't protect yourself, number one. And then with loud noises, I would live in a building that was right next to the mortars that were going off all the time. Reminders that, maybe at this time in the convoy I'm going to get blown up. So, those things are triggers. Like, so I would have a hard time going to a bar, right? But I had to learn that, okay, this is safe. Like, I'm in America again, and kind of learned that these things that I'm doing, the more vulnerable I am to get exposed to this danger, I have to realize that I'm not in the position that I was in. So that's one way. The other is kind of avoid altogether.
Like, a situation is going to trigger you, just try to avoid that.
Yeah, like it's like the person that causing you stress at work. Mm-hmm. Avoid them. Yeah. Those are some ways you could do that, especially like nowadays with a civilian workforce. You can at least you could walk away. In the military, you can't.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, so Cochise earlier he asked the question, and then he asked if you could refine that. So he said the Marine Corps mentality is that we're the best of the best, and we are loud and proud. The traits that made me a successful Marine almost hinder me in the corporate world. How did you identify the parts of your Marine identity to keep and what to let go?
Okay, that's a really good question.
It's fantastic.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So when I went from DoD contractor to this multinational, when you're a contractor, like, this is the culture that you're in. You get it. Chain of command. You could say you suck, and people would be like, okay, yeah, it's not so bad. You're not so bad. So going into the civilian to private sector was interesting, because I was used to top down. You're my boss. I understand. You tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. Right. And I'm used to also being to tell the folks under me, it's like, hey, this is what we got to get done. Let's go. Yeah. Right. And it was just like that. And then I realized that I had a colleague who was from Poland, and it was really interesting, because he thought that every single Marine was like Full Metal Jacket. And so he was deathly afraid of me. Right. And so there I was. I'm just like, oh my God, somebody. Oh yeah, everybody thinks he thinks that I'm this killer, and he's seen my pictures from Afghanistan. Like, I'm all decked out, and then he's really confused when I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? And then, or if I'm like saying, hey, this is what we got to do, or I'm talking real fast. So I had to learn to, be sensitive. And that's like, a Marine being sensitive.
Yeah. Doesn't.
Yeah, no, that doesn't. Or anybody in the military is like being sensitive, and you just say what needs to happen, and you get it done. So I had to learn to get rid of that, right? And then I had to learn that every culture is different. The way that I talk to somebody from China is different than I talk to somebody from Poland. Is different than I talk to somebody from Mexico. And that's when I had to really, and I really struggled because I was just so used to command and control. Let's get stuff done. But I had to eliminate bias, right? Which you don't think you have to do as you're like, I'm an American, and then you're a Marine on top of that, and then it's just like all this bias from other cultures.
Right.
But even bias that is in the United States too. Some people just think that all Marines are crazy.
Right.
So yeah, it was that was one of the things that I struggled with, is to be able to communicate better. And yeah, it started from there, and then you have to change the way that you talk to people, and you have to ask things differently. And I struggled. And like I said, like, when did I shed that Marine, that mentality? I think it was like just last year.
Right. After being 5 years removed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, this is what you got to do.
So it's just natural that it's going to take some time. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's normal. It's normal. And I mean, I don't know how many vets felt this. Like, sometimes you're just mad at the world.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Just mad at the world, and I still get that way. Just like, why the hell is this like this? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hold on to that identity still. Like, that's something that doesn't go away. But I understand the whole hindrance, all those traits, the initiative. That gets people. Like, my initiative got me in trouble because my boss thought I was trying to take his job.
Right.
Yeah. And then he would try to keep me down, and then it was just like, what the hell you want me to do? I'm like, do you just want me to turn the wheel? It's like, we're not bred that way. Right. We're bred to, let's go, let's move, let's take it to the next step. This is the bar. We're just going to keep on raising the bar. That's what we're used to. Right. And that was hard to let go. And
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I can't imagine the change of environment, just we're all in this, just get it done. You know who's going to be giving you orders. You're going to follow those orders. You know who to give orders to. Sometimes in the corporate world, this all disentangled, and no one knows what's going on, and you can't get a clear answer from someone, and
herding cats, man.
Yeah.
Herding cats, that's what I call it. Just
so RJ45, what is your advice to those who rely on tapping into their inner demons and turmoil to enable them to successfully find zero-day vulnerabilities?
Read that again.
Yeah. So, what is your advice to those who rely on tapping into their inner demons and turmoil to enable them to successfully find zero-day vulnerabilities?
So,
it's like if they need to tap into their...
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's
I get
an interesting
concept.
concept.
I get it. I get it. And this goes back to like doing a vulnerability assessment on your stressors.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got to find the holes. You got to find the holes in your system, and that's based off of the knowledge that is available, right? But that's why I also said is like you need to continuously learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to continuously learn about like mental health and keep exposing yourself, because like when those 0 days that you don't see in your system now, and you educate yourself and you improve, you level up your vulnerability scanner, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then those 0 days are no longer 0 days,
Right.
and then you
Patch
either
them.
mitigate them,
Yeah.
or you reduce them to an acceptable level. So, it's just taking in what you know about yourself now, and then keep on learning about yourself and learning about how to improve and learning how to live the life that you want, and those 0 days eventually will turn into something that's known, and you just have to take care of it, man.
Cool. Yes, I think a few more questions coming in, but all around, extremely thankful and grateful that you were giving this talk. It's so timely. And also, is the speaker local? Got to get his book signed next time. So, RJ, I think has got your book. So
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
So maybe when we start to get more, once we get past this COVID thing and start to get more group activities in here, we can have you back.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, so. Yeah, I think that for the most part, let me just check YouTube.
Yeah, so while you're checking on that,
Yeah.
one of the things that we're doing right now is, like I said, the training side of my business is about helping veterans, transitioning service members, and their spouses explore careers in cybersecurity. And that's because I think that I love it. I love cybersecurity. I like to feel it feels that you're serving, you're supporting, you're protecting again.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the folks that are getting out know that, hey, this is something that I would like to continue to do.
Yeah, it's a way for you to continue the service, that mindset.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many positives to it. I mean, a lot of got clearances. I mean, a lot of just that mindset is already there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And so we're supporting them by trying to get them, giving them training on specific roles, like cybersecurity analyst or project manager, or different things, and as well as talk about soft skill development, empathy,
Yes.
emotional intelligence. Just and I put together a course that really talks about my experience and how I found a career in cybersecurity and how you could kind of defunk the NIST framework, and then have those careers that you want in the role that you want.
So I have a question.
Yes, you have a question.
Meaning and purpose.
Meaning and purpose.
So when you came into security, I'd just be curious on your thoughts, Wilson, about how that helped kind of bring a meaning and purpose back. 'Cause I know that's something I've dealt with before. Like, hey, when I did X, it was meaningful. I felt a purpose. When I'm in a call center in Tampa Bay, after I get out of the military, how did cybersecurity help you find meaning and purpose?
Yeah, so I think that I'm not sure what kind of hackers are here in the guild, but
Good ones.
yeah, I mean, a lot of us feel the necessity for protecting, right? It's in our nature too, and the one thing that I really thought about cybersecurity as a profession was that you're protecting something, right? And there's a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're on the white side or the black side, that's like there's an adversary, and it's always challenging, and there's a purpose, and then you have the concept of a war, right? And you have a purpose. It's just like, okay, I am protecting my organization from an adversary, or I'm making sure that nobody could steal our stuff, our intellectual property, because we have an adversary. So you find a reason. It's just like, okay, all right, and then that's where we kind of draw the purpose of the organization that you want to go into. It's like, do they match my needs, right? And will that organization help me fulfill my needs? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like self-actuation, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just having that purpose and seeing the organizations and like it's your baby. I think that's what purpose and meaning is in cybersecurity, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think we've got one more from Cochise again. Let's see.
I sparked another round of questions. I'll leave
Yeah,
that
yeah,
to
yeah, that's
do my
fine.
presentation.
Can you ask Wilson about how Cooper's color code can apply in the civilian world?
Cooper's color code.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is
Okay,
either.
yeah.
I probably
Sorry, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
What was that, John?
He said Cooper's color code. How does that apply to the?
I've never
That's
heard
not a
of that.
crayon thing, is it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So I was saying is that we have this GoFundMe to support our veterans and yeah, we have a GoFundMe right now.
Can we throw the link up in the comments?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so we're trying to raise $30,000 to support our students, our cohorts to go through.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get the link for it.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we'll shoot it out on our social, and then we'll put it in the guild.
Yeah,
so,
we're just getting it ready, and if you feel passionate about this mission, then please support any way you can.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We're happy for what you got.
Yeah,
especially with mentorship too. We need mentors.
Yes. Okay,
Any more questions?
I think we might be. I think we're done. But yeah, thank you so much. A lot of great. Everybody's saying thank you. Yeah. So.
As is customary, sir.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Be careful with the frame, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah, this is nice.
Wilson, thank you for coming out, and this is an excellent talk.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks for having
timely.
me.
Yep.
Appreciate
We hope
it.
to see that, or at least I hope to see that on Zoom calls in the future.
Oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
happening.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Cool. All
Any
right,
more
guys.
comments, Chris?
Nope, that's it for us. Next week, classified series with Rhett, how to be a ghost, and we'll catch you later. Bye.